I'm just smiling, and that smile's not going to be wiped off my face. In fact, every Virat Kohli fan on this Sunday should be smiling, enjoy it, because sometimes you just have to appreciate class in life. And today was one such instance. Virat Kohli, 186. All the haters can sit down, and I am absolutely chuffed. I'm Abni Shaikh, and you're watching this day four review in terms of what's been a riveting watch on a Sunday afternoon. And wherever you're joining us right now, do let us know your thoughts in the comments, how you, of course, saw the day, and do you think that India can possibly get a result on day five of this Ahmedabad test in the Border Gavaskar Trophy 2023? I'm going to be joined in by some fine minds in house. Somesh returns. Gurkirat is called in sick, whatever that means, because he's, of course, complaining about a headache. I don't know if it was Virat silencing him and critics like him, but look, that's just a tongue in cheek. We also have Anirudh Suresh, who was not happy with Virat's 100, but we'll tell you lots more about that in due course. But so far as it stands, India, of course, getting the job done with the bat. 571 for nine. I say nine because Shreyas Iyer, of course, a back spasm kind of ruled him out to bat in this innings. And Australia, 3 for none at stumps on day four. They sent Matty Kuhneman out to bat. Of course, they were probably shitting themselves, to be fair. But wise move at the end of the day. Chachant already making his presence felt in the comments below, saying Kohli should have gone for a double century. Some poor decision making towards the end of the innings. Yeah, you could call it that, but you could also appreciate the 186 that he stitched, because more often than not, you kind of take your hat off to innings like this. And it was a day of really willpower from Virat more than anything else, because you look at the boundary count, not that much. It was a lot of grinding out to do, and we appreciate Knox for that, especially in the longest format. So keep your comments coming through like Chant. We'll get to Somesh and Anirudh once they find their Wi-Fi sorted in this office. I don't know why they're always late to the party, but clearly they're not really sticking to their deadlines. Just joking with them, but there's some great stats, of course, throughout the day. Where do we start? We'll start with Nathan Lyon, because, of course, he went in the record books, and I don't think that record will be broken in a while, because what he did is, of course, become the man to take the most wickets as a visiting bowler in terms of tests in India. And that's, of course, something to savor if you're an Australian fan. He goes past Derek Underwood. You can catch all the nuggets and the data on cricket.com, because it's truly here to be there for a long time, I should say. Sorry, I just got distracted because the lads are asking me for a link to join the show. I mean, absolute pandemonium already. But tell us what you liked about Virat Kohli's 100. We will, of course, pick the bones out of the stats. We'll tell you whether it's his slowest 100 and all of that. So, look, Crazy Nick's also returns. So that's going to be great to see. And Ajit Joshi, yesterday, I feared India might be all out for 100, 400, thanks to Virat. Now India in the driver's seat, you feel. Avneet Singh, 3 to 4 more overs, and we would have got 1 or 2 more wickets. I mean, yeah, you could look at these things in hindsight. Right, the boys are joining one by one. The Wi-Fi operator was interested in applauding Virat's knock and was busy telling people what an amazing knocks. Yeah, absolutely, Santosh. Agree with those thoughts. Right, let's get Somesh, who's back with us, and so is Crazy Nicks. Good to see you, boys. And a great day, because if you're an Indian fan, not just did India go past Australia's 480 with absolute ease, for a Virat Kohli 100, his 75th ton. Come on, let's all kind of just appreciate that. Come on, all you haters, sit down. Honestly, what a knock. Next, talk to me, and then we'll get to Som and the boys.
Yeah, I almost got a Virat double prediction on point before the start of the BGT. Uh, I hope this was. I wish this was the first game, the kind of surface. This is where the skill is separated. We've talked a lot about how a rank turners bring the sides close. These are the kind of pitches where you want to see how your team is doing, playing to their strength. So I think a lot of us also probably misread, thinking that there is no chance India can come back in this game, or the game is already gone. Which is good, because we are running out of patience in any which ways. So this was a good day, a good couple of days of batting, and who else but Virat to play an absolute resilient knock, I'll say. Very less force. I think very less. By the time he got to 100, he had only 5 force. So he's ran a lot. And I must credit Smith as well for the fields that he had. Did not allow Virat to ever get onto a stage where he could dominate proceedings, and even towards the end, you saw the field was spread like a fountain, and Virat had nowhere to go. So, but yes, very happy to see Virat back among the runs, which I'm sure I can already hear from the voice that is there on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, even the fans absolutely losing their minds in the comments. So keep them coming through. So, where do you rank this Virat Kohli 100? He's got 28 now. He's got 8 against Australia. One of attrition and grind and all those adjectives, but how much did you like it?
I loved it, of course. And जब किसी ने 7500s मारे होते हैं ना, तो it becomes very difficult to rank. I mean, ranking you do for. I mean, a while ago, people were asking the same question about Rishabh Pant, that which of his overseas 100 is the best. In that scenario, it makes sense because it's just 4. Can't rank a guy, a knock for a guy who's already made 75 tons. Overall, very satisfied. What we have learned in the past few months is that Virat Kohli has not forgotten how to score big runs, and that is a very satisfying thing from an Indian perspective, because and I think we have talked about this on this show a lot, that how the pitches in India have been resulting in our batters sort of losing confidence. And even for us as fans, it was difficult to comprehend that as and when the situation arrives for them to score big runs, will they have enough confidence and will they have enough trust in their ability to go on and get those big hundreds? So this innings from Virat Kohli, I mean, that again will assure everyone that this man has not forgotten how to score runs. People might say that it was a flat wicket, which it is, to be honest. This is turning out to be a dull test, specifically with the tactics that both sides have opted for. But I think it was flat for everyone. And only 3 batters have gone, 4. 2 Indians, 2 Australians. 2 Indians got 100. One is in the pink of his form, and the other is, of course, the legend. I mean, if it was as flat as people might suggest, then everyone would have gotten 100 in this wicket, which did not happen.
Let's talk to a man who thinks the pitch was absolutely a road. Anirudh Suresh coming in right now. He's painting a smile right now. I don't know what that is about. But talk to me, Anirudh. From an Australian perspective, I know the game was slipping away from them when the day started itself, but right now, how do you see the day, really, for starters?
I mean, you expected this. I mean, we talked about it in the show yesterday, the day before that also, that it all depends. It'll all come down to how the pitch behaves. If it breaks down, then the 480 is a pretty good score. It'll start looking like 550. But if it does not break down, then India will take a lead or at least get to parity, and then the pressure will be on Australia. So the pitch did not deteriorate at all. I mean, it showed little signs, but it was too late by then. Lyon had bowled 60 plus overs and he was completely gone. Murphy had also bowled 40 plus overs and he didn't have any energy left, and it was too late by then. So yeah, I mean, you expected this because Australia scored 480 despite Smith and Labuschagne between them scoring about 40 runs, 50 runs. So that itself should tell you how good a wicket this has been. That Australia scored 500 despite their 2 key batters scoring nothing absolutely. So now the pressure is on them, and we'll have to find out how they'll respond. I think it's about survival, and it is about survival. They have sent Matthew Grimmett to open because Khawaja is injured, so they did not even attempt sending someone like a Murphy who can bat. They just sent outright night watchman who just wants to block. So yeah, I mean, Australia probably hoped that the pitch would deteriorate. It did not, and now the best they can do is draw and walk away with a prestigious 2-1 defeat. That's all they can do from here.
I mean, you were kind of drawing a comparison to Chennai 2016 when England, of course, cocked it up on that day 5, which is a good comparison to make. I was actually talking to Som about the 60 overs of hell we gave England in Lords, something like that, to get at Australia on day 5. Nix, how do you think India can win this game? Do you see a horrendous collapse around the corner, or do you think that's wishful thinking from my perspective and every other Indian fan watching this?
See, I don't think it's going to be easy to trigger a collapse on this deck. There have been signs. We saw that when Axar was batting as well. A few gripped and turned a few, kept very low. So it'll depend a lot on the pitch and how India bowl. India created one chance already in the short stay, and the short catching or the catches around them are going to be critical for them to convert any of those small chances that are created. So in that sense, I think India will keep the pressure. What I have been slightly surprised by is the tactics that India have applied, especially with Jadeja. I mean, he's only bowled almost predominantly on the middle line and turning into the batters. I know they want to get the low LBW and that kind of dismissal, but I think they'll probably have to try a few things out as well, because this deck is not something where you'll get that misbehavior very often. So you'll have to create a wicket, use your angles, and do plenty more to manufacture a wicket. So I think, again, like we always say, the first session will always be critical. If I think it'll not only be spin that will save or get India to the game. I think Sham is going to be very crucial for India up top, right up top tomorrow. If he can take a couple out early, and because Smith and Manas haven't had much scoring so far. I mean, the lowest score that Axar has scored is around 70, but the highest that Manas and Smith have is around 49. So I think they are probably due a knock. Who knows? So you will need as many wickets as you can to make them feel the pressure, because then is when you want to see how is a Smith and Manas partnership doing versus Ashwin and Jadeja, who might then have a lot of bank in terms of the pressure is all on Australia to save this game.
So you were mentioning it to me on WhatsApp to the boys at least around 1 p.m. today, where you felt that India should have declared at a certain moment in time. When was that, and what was your thinking behind that in terms of forcing a result?
Yeah, I think I felt then, and I feel now as well, that India should have declared at parity. Because, I mean, if you look at it, now, if India would have given a hint to Australia that even they can force a result, it would have made Australia to try something. What has happened now is Australia would probably bat out for the draw. Let's say if India would have declared at parity with Australia playing 20 overs today, they would have maybe tried to score and see if they can put a target of around 200, and then declare and make India bat the 2 sessions tomorrow. Because see, if you think from Steve Smith's perspective right now, I mean, they are at a point in history where they have a chance to beat India in 2 tests and square this series off. This will be a great achievement for them, and I think they would have taken it, and that could have forced a result. But now what has happened is, with so much time lost and Australia behind the game, them thinking about now taking a lead and then bowling India out is potentially out of the equation, and that will put Australia on the defensive and will make that much more harder for India to take wickets. And even from India's perspective, I think even if they would have declared at parity, the chances of them losing this test were almost zero. And of course, if you look at the WTC perspective, India do have to win this game. Otherwise, they will have to rely on New Zealand chasing the target tomorrow, or maybe defeating Sri Lanka in the next test. So I felt the more positive approach, at least from the outside, would have been for India to declare at parity.
Okay. Guys, I just want to pose this to you all, because a lot of questions coming our way, at least heckling the NCA and about Shreyas Iyer's fitness, because again, it's that same old back injury which has plagued him. What's happening there? Because technically, I mean, as you can see in the Sanjay Bharati Sarvanan comment, Iyer is barring factors. He's just got from the NCA. How could they clear Iyer's fitness? So lots of people asking this kind of question. Throw it to all of y'all. Anirudh, you take this one here. I mean, is this similar to the whole Bumrah episode, culminating as a deja vu, but just with Iyer?
I don't think it starts with Bumrah alone. It goes back a long way. I think there were reports that Bhuvneshwar Kumar was not handled properly by the NCA, and he picked up an injury just after completing rehab, and I know being past fit. I think Deepak Chahar has also had his problems. Rin Pandya, I think, once refused to go to the NCA, and he had treatment elsewhere because he didn't want to go to the NCA. And I mean, it's somebody has to get to the root of the matter. We are not sure what's happening. I think we even talked about this in office when Iyer was declared fit, whether they are rushing him, prematurely, is being rushed back because it's the middle of the series and all, because we know that back injuries in general take more time than usual injuries and they need to be handled carefully. But he was past fit, and then he immediately came into the side, and even then I think he was not feeling close because of his back and all that was happening. So yeah, it's concerning. If it's one or two players, you can pass it off, but now it's becoming a pattern wherein every player is being either not treated properly, or they're being rushed back and they're picking up the same injury and they're spending more time on the sidelines. So I mean, I don't know if NCAA should cop the blame or not, but somebody needs to get to the root of the issue and find out what exactly is happening and how they can stop it from happening further, so that you know players are being preserved and not just run to the ground.
Okay, I mean, it's an important year in terms of ODIs, and he's been our best ODI player since the last World Cup, Nix and Som. So obviously, we have to watch this space carefully. The ODI series happens. I don't think Iyer will be playing that. Do you think he should, because he's named in the series, Nix? Well, what's your take on the whole situation?
Yeah, hopefully the non-cooperating asset, or whatever you want to call NCA right now, just finds a way out. Because had it been one case, you can excuse it as a one-off or rub it off that okay, sometimes they flare up. There are certain things that are being they were not for whatever can be the reason, but it's just become like a habit, and you don't see anybody being held accountable, which is again one of the classics from the board, that you are free to assume whatever you want. We will never give you a clear air or a clear answer. But it's already happened with India's best bowler. I mean, if you cannot handle Jasprit Bumrah, I really have no hope for anybody else. So won't be surprised if people start looking at other options, because if NCA is going to pass people fit and they look up with injuries, there is a lot of important time coming up for all of these players in the next few years. So I don't think any of them can take it lightly that okay, I can't, because you'll want to push yourself, but if you end up aggravating that injury, it could really be something that you do not want to be part of. So I don't see him playing the series at least. Hopefully, he's given enough time to recover from this. And again, if he has to miss the IPL, so be it, because you need him for the World Cup. I think that is the crux of the matter. I don't think 3 games against Australia or even 14 games for KKR, who I don't even know how they'll have to manage Naren and Russell first. They'll have their own NCA for them. But injuries aside, you'd want your best players for the World Cup. The priority has to be clear.
Prashant Guru going on to say Kolkata Knight Riders now in distress. So just to wind up this whole Iyer issue, I mean, if it is a back problem again and they've thrown him into the series and rushed him in, so to speak, I mean, they don't want to keep repeating the same mistake.
I mean, it's anyone's guess is as good as mine as to what's going to happen and what is the reason for this to continuously happen. At this point of time, I will trust KKR CA more than an NCA. I'm just thinking that there might come a point in near future where players themselves stop trusting NCA, and they might speak to the board and say that I will take care of my own fitness. I think this is very similar to what Hardik Pandya has been doing lately, if I'm not wrong. He's carrying his own chef and trainers and everyone around. I think that was the case in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken, and especially the well-to-do players who are the creamy layer of Indian cricket, they might stop trusting NCA after a point altogether and might have their own experts, because at this point of time it feels that is the way to go.
Yeah, I think you'll just be more safe, right? If you know your own chiropractor or your own physicians around you, not these guys at the NCA. There are lots of questions coming in. We still have about 10 minutes to wrap up proceedings. But what I want to ask you guys next is this little comment made by K Singh, right, in the comments below, which tells you a lot, even though it's a short comment. Now, just pick the bones about these guys. We were mourning last week at this time, at least many of y'all were, about how that pitch in Indore was an absolute diabolical one, and it got over. And now we're seeing a different pitch where it's true romantic, day 5, session 3, and all of that. Which side of the fence are you guys on? We'll start with reverse order this time. Som, Nix, and then Anirudh. Som?
I will take this pitch over any of the dust bowls. If India have to, I mean, see, there is no point of having a 5-day test if your pitch itself is not prepared for that. if you are in a contest of 540 overs, you should expect the result in around 500 overs and not 270 to 50 overs. If the dust bowls were, I mean, would have probably been turning, but not that serious as to have the game end in like 2-3 days, then I would have been fine. But I would still want to watch this test over others from a fan perspective, and also it puts it actually differentiates between the talent. I mean, if on a wicket Ravi Ashwin is clearly ahead of all the other spinners, it is the actual conclusion. That is how it should be, because that is what the reality is. So this pitch is actually giving out best results to the better players, and that is how sport should be. And secondly, if you look at just from an Indian perspective, if India want to dominate Test cricket across the globe, they need their batters to be in some confidence, and especially fast bowlers and spinners should know how to take wickets on flatter wickets. Otherwise, we might go back to the era where India continue to dominate at home and do not do that well abroad.
Yeah, I mean, it's food for thought. That. What about you boys? What do you think of it? Because we've seen Rawalpindi, and then there's Indore, and then there's nothing in between. We'd love something in between, but which side of the fence are you guys on? Anirudh and then Nix.
I mean, I would have liked for this pitch to be slightly more bowler friendly. I think it doesn't have enough pace, and it just made if you look at it from a Test cricket point of view, then it's good that it's going to 5 days and all. But for large parts, this match was really unwatchable. To be honest, I mean, yeah, the bowlers were trying their best, but they were not getting anything. And if you look at the 2019 wickets that fell, most wickets were just due to the batter throwing the wickets away, or there was not a lot of skill involved in all the wickets that fell, and it was probably too batter friendly. I would have loved for the seamers to have some more juice on the wicket, maybe some more pace on the wicket, so that the spinners also came into the picture a bit more. Ideally you want a pitch where let's say you score 400-ish.
There's balance between bat and ball. But that's easier said than done to all the curators, right? How are they supposed to know?
Yeah, but we've seen it. I mean, the pictures they prepared in the era where Kohli used to score double tons for fun, I think they had more on the wicket than what we saw in this Ahmedabad pitch. It's just that it feels, even if Australia collapsed tomorrow, I just feel that it's maybe if it had deteriorated a day before, or maybe earlier, then I think it's perfect. But for 4 days it has stayed intact, and that has kind of put me off. That 4 days of watching just batters just bat is very frustrating as a viewer. So you can't just wait for the last session for something to happen, right? You need action happening throughout the test. So yeah, that is what I personally feel.
I mean, we're all greedy as cricket fans at times. I think Pranav going on to say India should play in pitches only. Maybe there should be a little bit more help in the first day and widens the gulf between the two set of spinners. And also, India's million batters to now score big. So, you wanted to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I have a hypothesis, and we can't prove it. I feel that if all 4 tests would have seen wickets like what we saw in this test, probably we would have seen a result in this test. I'll tell you why. If you think about from the batter perspective, this is the first real opportunity that they're getting out in the middle to bat with patience, and that is where I think Australia batted a little too slow. Getting 480 in almost 2 days is unacceptable. If you're calling a wicket flat, then you should have gotten 480 at least a session earlier. And this actually, this sort of the run rates in this test is not high enough to call it a flat wicket. I feel batters were a little underconfident. If they been in some confidence, we would have seen both sides bat a little more aggressively. That would have given bowlers a chance to take some wickets as well, and this test would have moved a little forward a little more quicker than what it has been. So again, this is just a hypothesis, and this is what I feel, that at least 2 wickets like this, I mean, I would rather take these over what we saw in Indore specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Prashant Guru going on to say what will be the rating of this pitch by the ICC, the good, bad, ugly. Let us know in the comments below. I think the ICC will give this a a good green signal from my end. There's another great question thrown in by Prashant Kuru, which will take the wrap up proceedings. But before that, Anirudh, you want to say something?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say, as a pure cricket viewer, as a viewer from an unbiased perspective, I would much rather watch the indoor test 5 times than watching a test like this from an entertainment perspective.
And especially someone who has to write blogs, you'd rather be like get this over within 2-3 days.
Don't we all love those? I love those watch alongs in terms to get over quickly. I mean, Bangalore's been giving a lot of those to us in the WPL watch alongs. Pranav Anand mentions a good one, which we'll take forward to day 5 and your thoughts, guys, to just summarize what's going to happen tomorrow, I guess. And this is the one, because he says Mitchell Stark's foot has contributed more than his wrist in this game. Do you think the rough is good enough on both sides to trouble the batters? Nix, what do you feel? Do you think there could be some sort of Kremlins on day 5, or do you think again that's not something that we're going to see?
I think we may see some of it, but I'm not sure if it is evident enough or apparent enough for there to be obvious help. So I think it will slowly start to go, and that is how the test has panned out. And I think India will just hope to not give away enough runs and keep pressure on Australia to see how they react to that, because it's very easy when you know you are not going to win and you only have to play for a draw. It can still have its own pressure. And how India play around with the field, use those footmarks, I said, I think pace is going to be critical. And just to add to Som's point about the pitches, Lance bowled 60 overs here. Had he bowled 60 overs in the first test, it would have been a different ball game for every player going into the remaining of the test with very short turnaround time. So a lot of those factors are into play. For the pitch, I'll take the Nagpur deck. I think it was fair, probably a middle balance. And so I agree with Puvneet. I'm not too worried about where the test match ends, because at the end, you have to have a bigger goal in picture. If you're playing at home and you're saying, I want rank turners, then you are not helping your batters, and you're bringing the opposition into the play with they can take wickets by anyone. So you have to find a balance, and that is something, of course, it's a thankless job that you can't always find the perfect balance. But I think a Nagpur deck is kind of a middle ground between an Indore and an Ahmedabad.
Yeah, I mean, it's food for thought that. I mean, Akshay Patel should have been bowled more, is what Somesh was saying just before stumps. Do you think they should operate with that ploy first up tomorrow morning, Som, just to give something different to the Aussie batters?
Yeah, I mean, see, one thing that has rarely been done in this series is Akshay Patel bowling with a new ball. So, I mean, might as well give it a chance on the final day. Ashwin from one end is a given, but I think morning, jo bhi thoda juice rahega, they would want to start with a pacer from the other end. That again means that Akshay Patel won't be getting the new nut. So let's see. I mean, I just feel that his pace and his bowling style is on this pitches are better suited for a new ball than an older one. But I think jo 3.5 test mein nahi hua, I don't see that happening in the last day of the series.
We've seen some day 5 heists in recent times with this Indian cricket team, and not so many at home, but of course you think about Lords and Oval. So let's see if that's going to be the scene tomorrow. Let's end the show by a good one thrown in by Prashant Guru. Really appreciate his presence in the comments today. Prashant going on to ask a vital one, and it's something to consider, even though we've not seen it come to the fore in the IPL, which we will this tournament this time around. Anirudh, you can start with this one and your thoughts. Do you think there should be an impact player in tests as well?
So yeah, I don't know about the impact player, but I think that it is high time that we bring in injury substitutes at least, because there was a match between, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a match between Sri Lanka and South Africa a couple of years ago during the pandemic. I think Sri Lanka lost 3 or 4 players due to injury, and they're competing with 8 men, and that's ridiculous, right? So obviously teams could misuse this rule, but unless and until you experiment with it and get some data, you can't really rule it out. So I would love for injury substitutes to be. See, Matthew Kuhneman is opening for Australia. I mean, that is partly because he's a night watchman, but also because Khwaja is injured. Maybe they could have brought in a Renshaw instead if Khwaja is unfit to play. So I think in priority, we need Test cricket to introduce injury substitutes, and impact player I don't think is needed in Test cricket. 5 days, I don't think you need that.
Okay, taking off. I mean,
And just to add to that,
Yeah.
maybe they can take a leaf out of SA20's book, and maybe they can allow teams to announce the playing 11 after the toss, so that if we see teams pick 11s based on for batting first, batting second, and suddenly they lose the toss and the teams looks very silly. But if you can allow teams to pick the 11 after the toss, then you can adjust accordingly. So that will bring better balance, I feel, to the test as well.
Somesh, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, allowing the team to choose their 11 after the toss is one of those common sense things that are long overdue in cricket. I mean, we can make a list of those items. I mean, in terms of impact wise, I totally agree with Anirudh. I mean, if you are offering a concussion substitute, why not a substitute for other injuries? How is one injury different from the other?
So you mean like for like?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, like for like is a given, at least for now, because then it leads to a lot of variable factors, which would be a very big headache for the match referee later on. But at least like for like replacement for obvious injuries, which can be proven by an ICC appointed doctor. I think that
Which BCCI will appoint.
I mean, maybe they can go one step ahead and have an opposition chosen doctor or whatever it is, just to make everyone clear. Have a DRS on injury
NCA appointed. Sorry, not an NCA appointed one.
NCA appointment वाले में तो फिर वो सबको ही fit बोल देंगे ना कि जरूरत ही नहीं है इसको injury fit है ये.
So what's it? Does that mean we have to take only 9 wickets tomorrow because Khwaja is ruled out next?
And I think we'll have to wait for an update if he's going to bat. I don't think so, but always good to get an official update. In regards to the impact player, Aksar is already screaming कि जो 11 में है उनको तो use नहीं कर रहे हो. How are you going to get another player and then use them better?
Yeah.
So I think I actually don't agree with the part about naming 11 after the toss, because you are just excusing the captain for not reading the conditions right. But with injury substitutes, 100% agree on that part, because again, you do not want to punish a player for something that's happened on the field beyond his control. So unless you are not playing with an injury and all of that, I think the injury substitute should be fine. And with impact player, I think there is still time. People are not using the 11 right. Impact player can wait.
Okay, let's see how that, of course, unfolds. I think inevitably that will definitely come into some form of cricket. It already has with the IPL, so maybe the ICC will adopt that going forward. Let us know in the comments below if you guys thoroughly enjoyed this day in terms of day 4. And we'll be back here tomorrow, I think similar time, unless there's a horrible collapse on a Monday morning, or we'd love to see that as an Indian fan. Maybe Anirudh would hope there's a different script. But thank you so much, Nix and Anirudh, for making your presence felt. Listen, we're not done by any stretch in terms of content coming out today on our platform, because there is a watch-along, a WPL watch-along to be specific. The UP Warriors take on the Mumbai Indians, and that's going to be a relishing clash. We're going to be doing it from the second innings from 9 p.m. onwards. So join us then. Nix will be back. I think Kurkirat will sort his headache out, and he will be back as well. But it's a King Kohli day. Celebrate it. 186 of the finest. And only time will tell, of course, if India go on to make it 3-1 or it stays 2-1. Thanks for watching. It's a goodbye from me. We'll see you soon. And like I said, subscribe to cricket.com.